not going to be safe with a prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Had chills. I was like, oh my God, it's literally a princess. This is literally a fairy.
Rachel Zegler just lost it after finding out Brett Cooper was cast as Snow White.
Snow White movie, and they're starring Brett Cooper as Snow White.
Could not believe that this was actually happening. And I think most people online were sharing the same sentiment because they could not decide whether this was real or some big joke trying to turn Snow White into a MAGA conservative movie. We're just trying to represent the
When Disney announced Rachel Zegler as the new Snow White, the internet was split. Some people were excited, but many others were confused. Snow White, as the name suggests, was traditionally portrayed as, well, white. But Disney chose Rachel, a Latina actress, and let's just say, people weren't exactly happy about it.
If Disney wants to make more woke films that tank at the box office, they are more than welcome to do that, but maybe think of an original idea. Maybe not destroy a classic from my childhood and put an actress in there that not only hates the plot and the storyline of the movie she's in, but also seemingly hates Snow White the character.
But that didn't start the internet war. It began when Rachel talked about how the new Snow White wouldn't need a prince to save her. You know, the whole point of the original movie. Instead, this Snow White would be all about being a leader and not waiting for true love. To some people, that sounded like modern girl boss energy, but to many others, it felt like Disney was throwing away the heart of the story.
You were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
People started digging up every clip they could find, from Rachel talking about how weird and old-fashioned the original Snow White was, to interviews where she said she wasn't interested in the love story at all. For a lot of people, that confirmed what they had suspected from the start. She didn't care about the character or respect the story. To them, she was only using the role as another stepping stone in Hollywood. Another person who has had a lot to say about this film is Brett Cooper, often referred to as the Gen Z version of Ben Shapiro.
reminded that the girl playing Snow White isn't actually Snow White, after all, which should not have surprised anybody. It is 2023. You can't hire a white girl to play.
And the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Oh my God, it's a really incredible story. You're making this girl boss story based on an important father figure. Her father tells her to be brave and strong. Don't you think that there's a, something redeeming about men in this story?
She called out how Rachel seemed to hate the very movie she was hired to star in. Brett questioned why Disney would even cast someone who clearly didn't like the original story, and honestly, a lot of people agreed with her.
Apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White and Disney, women can't even want to be in love anymore. That's some outdated construct. That was back in the 30s when women actually wanted to be around men, actually wanted to be in love. Like, even though women in 2023, we still come home. Even the most girl-bossy, feminist girls out there that I know, they still come home. They cuddle up on the couch, and you know what?
The internet roasted Rachel for sounding more like a feminist influencer than an excited Disney princess. She wasn't just making waves in Hollywood. She'd been pretty outspoken in politics, too.
I don't think I've come up on this social media app to say that we have a really important presidential election coming up, and Lenny is very eager for you to vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights.
At this point, the backlash was bigger than ever. Commentators were slamming her left, right, and center, and one of them was conservative host Tomi Lahren.
To talk about this film numerous times, how she once thought Snow White was creepy, she doesn't like the prince, she thinks she should get paid more because she has to wear that dress, she should get paid for streaming, for every hour she has to wear the dress. I mean, talk about biting the hand that feeds you. Not only are you being casted in a classic film to remake it, but you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
The whole Snow White mess wasn't just about Rachel's interviews or the fact that she didn't seem all that excited about the role. It was also about how people felt Disney had started treating its audience.
Rachel Zegler. Zegler? Zegler. Okay, there's something wrong with this person. She's also known as the star of Snow White and the Disney movie. Hello, Disney! You're gonna have to redo your film again because this woman is a...
While all this was going on, Rachel didn't shy away from the press. In fact, the more people dragged her, The more clips surfaced showing that she had little to no emotional connection to the film.
Scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. Never revisited Snow White again. So I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years when I was.
Disney was already deep into its remake phase, but every time they tried to update a fairy tale, fans felt like the magic was being stripped away. Snow White, being the original Disney princess movie, just hit harder. Fans were tired of studios changing classic stories and then acting shocked when audiences pushed back. Rachel became the perfect face for that frustration. Every time another old clip of her popped up, it felt more and more like she wasn't just promoting a modern version of Snow White, but actively looking down on anyone who liked the original.
Women, we still want to be in love and we still like men and we still want to find a man that will treat us well. But nope, that is a very outdated social construct. Can't have that anymore. That makes us weak and makes us look bad, even though that is literally who we are. That is not a bad thing. Like, oh my gosh, that is so 1930s, gotta move.
The best part of all this is that she's starring in her own version of Snow White. The Daily Wire announced they were making a Snow White movie too, but this time, they're sticking to the original vibe.
Us had chills and was like, oh my god, it's literally a princess. This is literally a fairy tale. This is so crazy. We just could not get enough of it, and I truly could not believe that this was actually happening. And I think most people online were sharing the same sentiment because they could not decide whether this was real or some big joke. It's kind of like when Jeremy started Jeremy's Razor.
Fans loved it. Brett's version looked fun, nostalgic, and loyal to the original story. The trailer racked up millions of views, and people flooded the comments, calling it the real Snow White.
I'm a prince would come once upon a time, but now that time is gone.
The Daily Wire, a conservative media company, is going up against Disney and bringing back the version everybody knows. Disney delayed the remake until 2025, hoping the drama would die down, but by then, the damage was already done. Rachel had gone from Hollywood's rising star to the internet's favorite punching bag, and she didn't exactly help herself. Instead of trying to clear the air or even show a little charm or humility, she often came off as smug. Even when she posted on social media, it wasn't the usual lighthearted Disney princess vibe you'd expect. She posted TikToks and Instagram stories where she looked more like a social justice influencer than a star of a fairy tale, and her attitude just rubbed people the wrong way.
Try and see some friends safely. Let's address the elephant in the room. Make assumptions about my life, and that's fine, but that's why I think I still post on YouTube, is because I like to control the narrative in some regard. To some degree, I have to be able to say what's going on. I'm going for fittings for Shazam. I don't think that's against the—
It seemed like she didn't want the role in the first place, and while she tried to keep her head up through all of it, the public had pretty much made up its mind. What do you think about Brett Cooper's version of Snow White? Let us know in the comments section below.